peas and are too often left overseas. American Humane works to bring home these valiant dogs and reunite them with the people who mean the most to them, their handlers, so they can enjoy happy, healthy, well-deserved retirements. To learn how you can help America's four-footed heroes, visit AmericanHumane.org.
My husband and I were ready to sell our home of 25 years, so we got it appraised. We thought we knew what to expect, but when our home appraisal came back, we felt robbed. Compared to a similar home right around the corner, our appraisal was $80,000 less. That's a big difference. It was the same type of home in the same neighborhood in the same condition and age.
A recent study found that Latino and Black homeowners are about twice as likely as white homeowners to get low appraisals. For example, one Black homeowner received an appraisal more than double the original after removing family photos, Black art, and books from her home. If you believe your home has been unfairly appraised because of race or national origin, that could violate the Fair Housing Act. Contact HUD at hud.gov/fairhousing. That's hud.gov/fairhousing. Everyone has a right to fair housing. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
You are listening to WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk station, where facts matter and truth always wins. Stay informed, stay engaged.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. In Minneapolis, hundreds gathered for a vigil last night to honor the 2 children killed and 17 wounded in the shooting at a Catholic school. Speaking at the vigil, Archbishop Bernard Hebda said he found hope in the actions of the children while the gunman was shooting through the windows of the church.
The young children spoke about how their classmates or the other students in the school were so attentive to their needs and even tried to shield them at those moments of greatest need.
Authorities are investigating the school shooting as an act of domestic terrorism and a hate crime targeting Catholics. In other news, the European Commission says it will summon Russia's envoy to the European Union over the air attack earlier today that damaged the EU's diplomatic compound in Kyiv. Russia bombarded the Ukrainian capital with drones and missiles, killing at least 15 people and wounding 48. Meanwhile, AP correspondent Karen Shamas reports on tensions between the U.S. and Denmark over Greenland.
The top U.S. diplomat in Denmark has been summoned by the government after reports that people connected to President Donald Trump have been carrying out covert influence operations in Greenland. Danish broadcaster DR reported on Wednesday that at least 3 Americans have been involved in these operations. They allegedly compiled lists of US-friendly Greenlanders and tried to influence local politics. The Danish Security and Intelligence Service believes Greenland is a target for influence campaigns. The US State Department says the Deputy Chief of Mission in Copenhagen had productive talks with Danish Foreign Ministry officials and reaffirmed their strong ties. The department declined to comment on what it called the actions of private U.S. citizens in Greenland. I'm Karen Shamas.
And Iran's currency fell to near record lows today. Concerns are growing that European nations could move to start a process to reimpose United Nations sanctions over Iran's nuclear program. This is AP News. AP correspondent Ben Thomas reports the director of the nation's top public health agency has been fired after less than 1 month in the job.
Experiences cemented my belief. Good public health saves lives.
That was Susan Menares at her Senate confirmation hearing in June. But the White House says the now former CDC director is not aligned with President Trump's agenda, refused to resign, and has been fired.
I will ensure all recommendations are backed by publicly available gold standard science.
Her lawyers say she was targeted for standing up for science, refusing, in their words, to rubber stamp unscientific, reckless directives and fire dedicated health experts. Her departure coincided with the resignations this week of at least 4 other top CDC officials. I'm Ben Thomas.
More information at apnews.com. I'm Marcela Sanchez.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms at times here for today, otherwise cloudy skies with a high in the mid-70s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Tonight, partly cloudy and a low near 57. By Friday, sunshine, high of 70 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high of 74. Sunday, sunshine, high of 77 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 63.
Ready to step up your style? Do it in a Porsche. Own the road with power and performance. And find yours at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Our tariff-free vehicles are available for immediate delivery, like the 2025 Porsche Cayenne. And right now, lease the 2025 Macan Electric for only $949 a month for 39 months. Don't miss out on the $7,500 EV tax credit and grab your electric Porsche today at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $4,929 to its sign excludes tax, title, license, and doc fee. No security deposit required. Expires 9/2/25.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chu. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chu.
Good Thursday morning, progressives. Chins up and shoulders back. It's time to fight, guys. Chins up and shoulders back. It's time to fight. Welcome to the August 28th, 2025 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our number, our Credo mobile phone and text line. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube. Email me, of course, at richard@wcpt820.com. And you can follow me on X and Substack and LinkedIn and Facebook, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram. They call it IG, the hipsters do. And then catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. And by all means, make your way over to heartlandsignal.com. Our guest today, so we're going to be pretty quick because we have an early morning guest, Abdul El Said, who's running for Senate candidate in Michigan, and Erin Reed, journalist, will be with us in the 7:30 hour. So Abdul will be with us shortly at 6:15, and then Erin will be with us in the 7:30 hour. Heartland Signal and current things that are happening. I'm going to kind of get right to a few things this morning. Obviously, the shooting in Minnesota is yet another tragedy that our country has to deal with. And, let me hit you with a couple Choose Views news, and then we'll come back to what's happening in Minnesota. The EU bows to the U.S. demands on tariffs. The European Union will reportedly expedite a proposal to eliminate tariffs on U.S. industrial goods, meeting a condition the U.S. requires before it will lower levies on European auto exports. According to Bloomberg, which cites anonymous sources, the bloc will also set favorable rates on some seafood and agricultural goods. In return, the U.S. has said it will lower tariffs on European cars and auto parts from 27.5% to 15%. Cars are one of Europe's most significant U.S. exports, a roughly $35 billion business in Germany alone. The U.S., however, does hit India with 50% duties. Steep new U.S. tariffs on Indian imports took effect yesterday, delivering a powerful blow to India's top exporters and endangering thousands of jobs for Indian workers. The 50% duties include a 25% reciprocal tariff issued earlier this month after a breakdown in trade negotiations between the two nations, and a second 25% tariff designed to punish India, for buying Russian crude. Pharmaceutical products and electronics are among the other categories, all together worth an estimated $30 billion that fall under various trade exemptions. Kohl's is trying to spark a turnaround. A slow turnaround may be underway, which yesterday Kohl's reported second quarter sales that were better than Wall Street estimates, a 4.2% decrease in same-store sales compared to the 5% expected by analysts. The retailer also improved its outlook for the year, saying it expects comparable sales to be down 5%, whereas it had previously forecast a 6% decline. So that's a good move. Kohl's has been trying to reverse 14 consecutive quarters of falling revenue by focusing more on fine jewelry, women's wear, and partnerships with Sephora and Babies R Us. Last but not least, AI spending is apparently lifting the U.S. Economy in some ways. The AI boom isn't just driving the stock market to record highs. It's boosting the entire U.S. economy, albeit with consequences should the bubble burst. New York Times notes a quarter of all recent economic growth owes to software and computer equipment. That doesn't include the billions that companies worldwide are committing to infrastructure, such as data centers and power plants. $375 billion this year and a projected $500 billion next year. But if AI doesn't deliver, according to a number of analysts, there is going to be a large correction. Problem with AI is, it's affecting people's mindset in terms of their jobs. But the financial challenges, as it says right here, is that if it doesn't work, it's going to be a big correction. And industries where we have a silo mentality, the AI industry, obviously married to tech, gives me a little concern because the tech bros are already showing that they're looking to have a technocracy in this country. So just being mindful there. All right, guys. Obviously, we want to keep things as positive as we can today, and we will. We're going to talk about a variety of current events. We've got Abdul with us this morning. We've got Erin Reed with us later in the show, and I'll intersperse some current events along the way. But for the next minute or two, I just want to talk about what this horrible situation with this, once again, shooting in Minneapolis, and I should say in Minnesota. There's so many ways to describe this as yet another failure by the United States, but specifically a failure of the GOP connected and married to the gun industry. And I'm a little tired of the folks saying, it's a Second Amendment right and all that. I've been tired of that for years, that it's a Second Amendment right. And I'm done with that. I've been done with that for a while. And irrespective of the type of guns that were used, apparently, at the end of the day, children were killed while doing the thing that we, to some extent, all cherish, and that's private moments, whether it be in prayer or meditation or just, letting your hair down. You would think that that's the time when you could be at peace. And so now we've got yet another situation where that's wrong. And we have to hold all of our elected officials to accountability on this, but we have to hold the GOP to a higher standard because they're the ones that get in the way in these cases. I don't want to say I have an answer, but I have a solution. I look at them as two different things. A solution is to get out of the way, for the GOP to get out of the way and let the Democrats handle this. Those who want to be a little sparky with me about that, knock yourselves out. Because historically, both parties haven't done a great job, but one has done a better job. One has called for certain amounts of gun restraint and certain amounts of elimination of certain types of weapons. Others have not, and we know who those are. So the ones who stood in the way need to get the heck out of the way, and the ones who've held up need to be the ones to fight forward in this. Let's send out as much good vibe or prayer or whatever is in your bailiwick when it comes to supporting folks and these families that were affected by this tragedy. And I'm not going to throw any stones at the administration. We know we could do that, but let's center our energy on the families and then solutions that require better leadership. I'm assuming that we'll take a little bit of a break, but just wanted to say that you can go over to Heartland Signal on X. We've got a number of clips there from Senator Amy Klobuchar and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry and others as they appeared on MSNBC and other local channels. So make your way over to heartlandsignal.com to see some of the postings and clips that we have there. I didn't want to play them this morning because of, one, our timing, and also I just, it's sad words, and I didn't want that to be, what we have to hear yet again. So let's all hang in there. Let's send the good vibe and the love and the prayers to those families, that were impacted by this tragedy. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have Senate candidate Abdul El-Sayed with us this morning. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
WCPT replay.
You have to ask the question, why would a person that's got their head screwed on straight in this country go, yeah, let's privatize the post office. Yeah, let's privatize Social Security, education, and the list goes on. The people that populate those most densely populated areas of America that happen to be federal employees got chocolate skin like me.
They look like Richard.
Let's scrape off some of the layers of paint and the varnishing that they've been selling to MAGA and the GOP, and understand that part of the reason that they want to get rid of the people that work for, they want to get rid of the agencies, break them down, cripple them, is because along with that comes the crippling of certain communities.
Yeah. Amen.
Keep listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
This is Choose Views with Richard Chu.
All right, guys, we're back. Thanks for being with us this morning. Lots of Senate races, lots of local races, and we've had some success in the last few months in some of the special elections. And as you guys know, we're going to have some hot races going on here in Illinois with Dick Durbin stepping aside or not running again. And the same thing's going to be taking place in our neighboring great Midwestern state of Michigan. And with us this morning is one of the individuals that's a candidate for Michigan's open Senate seat. That would be Dr. Abdul El-Sayed. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sure you probably heard a little bit of the opening into the show and what I talked about as it relates to what happened in Minnesota. But you're running for Senate in Michigan, and Michigan born and raised. So take a moment, if you will, and share with the audience that which you are, your background. You've got some interesting sort of changes, fork in the road changes and decisions that you made with regard to your career. But let our audience know here and throughout the rest of the country a little bit more about you.
No, absolutely. And first, I just want to pick up on what you put down, because I certainly agree. Look, the idea that we give guns more rights than we give people's bodies, the idea that we don't treat this as the public health epidemic it is, has left us in this position where back to school means back to school shootings. And our hearts go out to the folks in Minnesota and in Minneapolis who are affected. But I think none of us want to be back in this position. And I'm the kind of person, my whole career has been about asking, how do you use science to solve problems? My folks immigrated this country from Egypt. My dad was the eldest of 6 among 8 to whom his mom gave birth, and 2 of them died before their first birthdays. I spent a lot of my childhood summers in Egypt with my grandmother, and understood just how privileged I was to be growing up here in these United States. And the fact that, when you have opportunity, you can either use it to create more opportunity for folks who don't have it, or you can use it to create more wealth for people who do. And I always wanted to be on the side of creating opportunity. I went to medical school to learn how to heal people, realized that the healthcare system I was learning to participate in was so often a part of kicking folks who needed care out, and so dedicated my career to public health. I'm an epidemiologist and physician by training. I rebuilt Detroit's health department after it had been shut down when the state came through and forced it to privatize during the austerity years in the early 2010s. We rebuilt it to do things like provide kids classes, take on big corporate polluters, have every school, daycare, and Head Start tested for lead in the water. I most recently led Wayne County's Department of Health, Human Veteran Services. There we got about to eliminating upwards of $700 million in medical debt, for 300,000 people. We built a comprehensive air quality monitoring system that is state-of-the-art. We put Narcan, life-saving anti-overdose medication, in 100 different locations. And I'm running for U.S. Senate in large part because it just shouldn't be this hard. I've been all around my state, been in public service for 10 years. No matter where you go, you could go talk to white folk in Escanaba or black folk in Redford, brown folk in Dearborn, every single place you go. People are telling you, look, it just shouldn't be this hard to afford your groceries, shouldn't be this hard to make sure your kid goes to a good school, shouldn't be this hard to be able to work the same job tomorrow that you worked yesterday, shouldn't be this hard to see a doctor. And I don't think it has to be. I think there's a lot we can do to take money out of politics that has been corrupting our system, put more money in people's pockets, and finally get around to passing Medicare for All, on which I wrote the book. And so grateful to be out here running around my state, learning and listening to folks and getting to talk to you.
It's great to have you with us, and I know we'll have you back. I love your energy, and I love your confidence about the topics that we all are facing right now. And I ask this question as it relates to you as a medical professional, but also as a person that brings a certain amount of business moxie to this conversation. And what do I mean by that? So, Abdul, what's the biggest when you sit and look at this and say, if I could just put my thumb on one thing that is the biggest problem when it comes to our healthcare, medical care system, what would you say that is? And I know that there's probably a layered answer, but I want to give you some space to try to answer that as best possible, and then we'll tie that into where we are politically. So what do you think is that thing?
I think it's the fact that we allow insurance to remain a profit-motivated industry. And I'll explain that a little bit. So healthcare, the provision of healthcare, like you going to the clinic or even you buying your medication, that's obviously profit-motivated. But in this country, we allow the people who, quote-unquote, insure you to also be profit-motivated. And when two profit-motivated industries are now negotiating prices on your behalf, guess who loses? You. I want you to think about this, right? If you were to get injured right now, let's hope that doesn't happen to you ever. But if you were to get injured right now, they would rush you to the nearest hospital. Then somebody would decide what kind of care you needed. It's not like you have a choice in the matter. And then you would get that care. And then instead of you paying, what would happen is your insurer would pay on your behalf if you're insured. Now, I want you to think about what it feels like to be a customer. Let's say you go to a market, you decide you want to buy some tomatoes. You might haggle over the price, and then you pay for those tomatoes. In the experience of healthcare, ask yourself, are you the customer, meaning are you the one paying for the goods you're receiving, or are you the reason a financial transaction is happening between a insurer and a hospital? And if you think about it, in healthcare, you're not the customer, you're the product, you're the tomatoes. And for that reason, you are losing, and we're always losing. The prices are going up. They're too expensive as it goes, and none of us really understand why.
You're the ball that's being volleyed.
Exactly.
We're in the midst of the U.S. Open, so that was kind of an easy one to pick up what you were putting down. But no, I appreciate you breaking it down that way. I have a financial management and wealth management insurance background, so I get it, and that's the thing. It's not when we start there. Then we get into why Medicare for all, and I'll even broaden those words and say coverage for all, protection for all is really where we have to be, and you definitely have led the charge there. So let me ask you my connective question. It's a statement and a question. I've said for a long time, Doc, that the biggest thing that we can do to make sure that we have the best, quote-unquote, defense in our country is not stack our military budget, but make sure that people are cared for from a medical and a health standpoint, make sure that our society is educated, and make sure that people have, to your point, not such a hard A time affording things. So putting money more into our medical and healthcare services, to me, is more important than putting more money into additional fighter jets. And making sure that people have the ability to be educated in a way that makes them a viable participant in our society, and then opportunities to work and take care of themselves. You and Bernie Sanders have been champions of that conversation. There's labels for it that you have, But, I just feel that our best defense is better health, better education, and better financial opportunities. Your thoughts?
I agree with you 100%. And when you say stuff like that, people are like, oh, you must be a socialist. I'm like, no, I just happen to actually read about what capitalism is. And the crazy thing
and by the way,
our society.
Let me say this to you, and then I'll shut up. And if that were the case and we were, quote, labeled, that's succeeding, then defined us as being socialist, then at the end of the day, we still got what we all needed. So I always you know what I mean? I come back to the labels and go, yeah, but if we got done what we needed to get done, I don't care about the label. I care about what we got done. So sorry, Doc, go ahead.
Yes. No, thank you. I mean, to your point, right? Like people ask me, so what is your ideology? I'm like, well, listen, I'm too much a scientist to believe that ideologies are always right. I want particular outcomes. I want everybody to be able to participate in the market with equal means to success, right? And that means that if you got your health care taken care of, you're not stuck in a dead-end job or a dead-end marriage because you're worried about losing your insurance, right? And you had the best education your mind could hold, then I think you can go out there and you can go and take your dollar and your dream and build on awesome ideas and create awesome opportunities for folks in your community. The problem right now is, our economy tends to be choked up by huge corporations who get to rig the system against the rest of us so that they always win and we always lose, whether it's at work or it's at the marketplace. And on the other side, because we don't actually have a viable working taxation system on ultra wealth, we don't have the money to invest in education or healthcare the way that people need and deserve. And so my point is that, all right, look, if you made your tens of millions, your hundreds of millions, you won at capitalism. Now, whatever else you make, like, we should be thinking about how to return that back into the system to invest in health and education and infrastructure for folks so that they have an equal shot at playing the game too. And I think if you do that, right, you create spaces where people can then go and succeed. Look, I don't begrudge anybody their millions, but, I also do math, and you can make 1,000 millionaires for 1 billionaire, right? That's what a billion is. It's 1,000 million. And so if you had to choose between an economy that's spitting out 1 billionaire or spitting out 1,000 millionaires, I think anybody who believes in the ideals of capitalism should say, no, we should pick the one that does 1,000 millionaires. Because guess what? Those folks actually look their workers in the eye. They spread their wealth around their local community, and they reinvest it in ways that make sense for everybody and create the kind of dynamic growth that we need and deserve. Now, how do you do that? Well, you invest in folks having the opportunity through healthcare, through education, through infrastructure. And I just happen to think, as a scientist, that the numbers are obvious. And if we were to do these things, we'd have a much more prosperous society. We'd have a lot less poverty. We'd have a lot more equality. And I think folks would generally be happier, less lonely, less angry, and be able to participate in ways that right now they're being locked out of.
There's no question about what you just said being spot on, because it takes the data. It's not anecdotal. It's data-based. It's, numeric-based. And it makes the case for not, the quote-unquote perception when we talk about building like this being a handout. No, it says let's just use the numbers and grow. We can use math, we can use data, we can use financial means to then grow things organically, ironically enough, because we're reinvesting back into the things that we say we cherish the most, which are people, which is health, and a society that is a prosperous society. So you're on to something there, and some may call it economic populism, whatever the label is. Like, it's interesting how folks, and we all slip into this, get caught up in labels for things rather than what they actually do and what the outcomes are. So I appreciate your perspective on using the science to get to where we got to get to. So talking about science for a second, let me ask you maybe a non-scientific question, but it is one that I think is important to what you're doing. You said earlier in terms of making it all over the state and seeing folks from different communities and so forth. So I ask you this question as a man of color, as a black man in America. You're going all over the state. You're seeing folks from different communities all over the big state of Michigan, upper and lower peninsula. And, you are a man of brown skin with we'll say for the folks in the cheap seats, with a funny name, just to kind of capture the conversation. How are you navigating that? I mean, that's a question that you and I, I'm a black guy with the last name Chu. So how are you navigating going to different parts of the state, seeing different communities, different people, and letting them know that irrespective of what you look like, you're capable and competent to get the work done?
Yeah, well, I really appreciate the question. I'm going to say two things. The first is, I know probably both of us have read W.E.B. Du Bois, and he talks about the idea of a double consciousness.
Yep.
This idea that, when you have a name like mine or skin color like ours, you walk around the world both having to understand the world and then having to understand the way the world understands you. And I think sometimes we over-perceive the things that are different rather than the things that are the same. And I grew up in a house where I was raised by my father, who's an Egyptian immigrant, and my stepmom, Jackie, who's a daughter of the American Revolution, who was born and raised in the middle of the state. Her family's been in Michigan since before the Civil War. And in some respects, my whole life has been translating these two groups to each other, whether it was on trips to Egypt in the summer or it's hanging out with my family in a cottage on a lake in Montcalm County, Michigan. And so I've known how I'm understood in a very profound way. And I've also known that people are willing to see past the things that we so often focus on when you're willing to be vulnerable and show them who you are and what you believe in. And I'm really grateful to all my family who taught me that. And so in a lot of ways, when I go around the state, I understand that I'm often the first Abdul anybody's met. I know that they sometimes have stereotypes about who we are. I mean, the number of times, like as an Oxford-educated physician, the number of times people have come up to me and said, "Man, you speak really good English." I'm like, I literally went to Oxford. But once you get past that, right, people give you a fair shake.
Yeah.
And it's your choice about how you engage on those questions. And I'm trying to get folks to see that the only way we take back our democracy is to do the thing democracy is uniquely capable of doing, which is allowing us a vessel to see past our differences, to reach beyond divides they tell us we cannot breach, whether it's a divide of geography between the Upper Peninsula and Lower Peninsula, a divide of race or ethnicity or faith or sexual identity or gender, or any of these things that they tell us that we cannot reach beyond. And I'm trying to get folks to see that if you just close your eyes, if you're in a VFW hall in Escanaba, or you're a union hall in Detroit, or you're in a church in Grand Rapids, the things that people complain about and the ways they complain about them are the same. And if we're able to reach beyond those things, we can build something that's greater than the sum of its parts. And I'll just finish here by saying I lived in a family. I grew up in a family that did exactly that. Yeah. And so I'm trying to do that for the state of Michigan, recognizing we can have nice things, but only if we go get them together.
And that's the reason that, first of all, thank you for that answer and that perspective. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 here in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We are talking with Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, who is a physician, former public health official, and candidate for Michigan's open U.S. Senate seat. The energy that you bring to this conversation and the energy that I'm sure you're bringing throughout the state of Michigan, and I happen to know it very well, and appreciate the fact that you've taken those life lessons, those younger life lessons, and applied them to the people that you're meeting. And I think all over the state of Michigan and all over the United States of America, more of us should recognize what we have in common more than we have apart. And that's one of the tools that the GOP has been using, and I would say successfully, in the last 8 years, 10 years of Donald Trump being in the White House now a second time. And bridging that gap is a tough bridge to cross, but it is the one that I believe is going to allow us to take some of the economic pieces, take some of the health pieces, take some of the social pieces, and connect them so that people can go, I'm willing to get in this fight. So I appreciate your leadership and your voice in that space. If you win the Senate seat, what are some of the things that you look at and say, these are high on my list that I want to get done? I know that Medicare for all is a big part of your platform, and economic stability is a big part of your platform. What are some of the other things that you are looking at on that windshield and saying, these are other things that I want to be leaning into if I were to win this seat?
Yeah, I'm going to give you two others. I think both of those come back to the issue of money in politics. And I think we needed to get right on the fact that the 14th Amendment never intended a corporation to be a person, and the First Amendment did not intend money to be speech. And I think we need to codify that in law, and I think we need to challenge this Supreme Court, however crooked, to have to face that down and make a terrible decision yet again. Because I think there are a lot of folks in robes sitting on that court right now thinking, oh, I don't love the direction this is going. And so I think that is number one, right? That's the big issue that's keeping us from taking on healthcare. It's the big issue that's kept us from taking on the kind of economic responsibilities that we need. But then the second one is this. I'm a public health physician. I rebuilt one health department, led the state's largest local health department. And we've got a guy in RFK Jr. who, I mean, you don't appoint the guy who goes swimming in Schitt's Creek to lead the federal health agencies. And we've seen the consequence of that. Just yesterday alone, you've got top officers at the CDC resigning. You've got the FDA issuing a new license for COVID vaccines that are going to restrict them from people who the science demonstrates should have them. And I mean, this is mayhem at this point, and he's using that seat to spread mis and disinformation. So I think we need leadership that's going to be able to, A, hold him accountable and hold the administration accountable, and B, rebuild from what he will have devastated. And, you look at the 100 U.S. senators, there's a lot of skill sets. Well, there are relatively few skill sets, some very overrepresented. But one skill set they don't have is a physician epidemiologist who worked in local public health, and I think we need that right about now. So helping to architect and lead that effort to rebuild what we need, right, and build it for purpose for the 21st century, that's something I really look forward to doing.
So, first of all, those are two great ones because we have to change money in politics. There's no question about it. We've gone way past the line. We're way, the proverbial, Mendoza line conversation is relevant here. We've gone way past that. And as it relates to, so I applaud you in that space, and how we can fix that is going to be by getting the senators that we need to be able to change how those laws are set up. Healthcare, it comes back to mind for me in terms of not healthcare. I'm sorry, health professionals as part of our leadership need to be there, and the reason is because we've got, in my perspective, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. We're leaning too much on this sort of faith-based perspective about health, and I'll put it in different terms. God will take care of it. Well, okay, but there's some science that says that these are things you should do to make sure that whatever your belief is, that's fostered and furthered along. And so we've got, and I love the way you put it about RFK, someone that has no real clue about the science that he's responsible for, administering to the rest of the country. So kudos to you in those two spaces. Let me, I know you have a lot more to say about that. So if you do, jump in, because I don't want to just move to the next question. But I feel like we spend too much time not relying on science when it comes to the most scientific thing out there, which is the human body, and leaning too much into this sort of faith-based Christian, God will take care of it mindset. And I know some people might be offended by you and I having a conversation about it this way, but that's where we've kind of gone in these last number of years, wouldn't you say? Or am I wrong about that?
I just say that anybody who tells you that your faith is inconsistent with science doesn't realize that the best tool that God gave you to heal yourself is science. Right? I'm a person of faith, and I believe deeply that God heals, and I believe deeply that God can heal you through science. Right? I mean, this incredible tool that allows us self-discovery, that allows us to understand what happens in our own bodies, that allows us to understand the ways that we interact with the world, that has helped to create a number of really incredible cures to diseases and preventives against diseases. Like, those are, if you're a person of faith, those are all God-given things. I don't see why we go around saying it's either God or science. I'm like, well, no, I believe in the God of science, and God gave us this science, right? The same God that gave us a body that heals gave us the capacity to understand how it heals and to manipulate how it heals and to do these things for ourselves. And so part of me says this is just part of the armamentarium. So please do go pray on it. And also, we got to create a system where you can pray on it at the same time where you have access to the medications to heal, and those two things are powerful together in combination. So I don't believe in one or the other, right? I believe that these two things work in in parallel together. And so I want folks to understand that, like, we are so, in this society, we are so used to the idea that people should take away the things that we should have as a matter of course, that we're told that, well, maybe we don't even need those things because we can't afford them. And I think we should be working to make sure that everybody can afford them, and also, right, recognize that there's so much that's out of our hands. And, I think for a lot of folks who are hearing this, we're so used to that this or that, we haven't really thought through the question of, like, this and that. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of reject the premise of, like, well, we'll let God take care of it. Well, yes, but also you should have all the tools available by which God could take care of it.
Yep. That's it. And again, that goes back to what sounds to be part of a core part of you and principle of you, and that is pulling together all the tools that we have. I have this as part of the promo for the show. One of the things that I've said for a long time, all of our players means all of our players. And in this case, all of our tools means all of our tools. The spiritual side as well as the scientific side, which they're not sides. They are actually connected when you stop and slow down and really look at it. So I appreciate you saying that and bringing that perspective to the conversation. So, Dr. Abdul, let me ask you a couple of personal questions, not deeply personal, but just ones that are part of how I want folks to get to know you. Two questions at the same time. One, who are some of your allies right now? And two, part of the same question, what keeps you moving forward? What keeps you going at this point in this crazy time that we're in? So where are you in that place? Who are your allies? Who keeps you moving forward? What keeps you moving forward?
Yeah, I'm grateful to have some incredible allies. And, if you're on a long journey, you are as good as the pack. And I've got some of the best teams. So we were privileged to have Senator Bernie Sanders in Kalamazoo rallying with us last Saturday. In fact, in the number of people who were there, you'll never believe this, was 2,026. And talk about providence here. Yeah. So he's been an incredible ally to me since I ran in 2018, and a mentor and a friend. And I also have folks like the Wayne County Executive Warren Evans. This is somebody who's a 5-decade stalwart of Wayne County, who's worked to support the health and safety and well-being of Wayne County residents from the beginning of his career. And he's somebody with whom I got to work very closely when I was Director of Health, Human, and Veteran Services. And so, and then you think about folks like Elizabeth Warren, who has helped to give ideas to the ideals that drive so much of our work. And so these are folks that I look up to, I'm grateful for. Folks like Pramila Jayapal, with whom I worked on the Biden-Sanders health task force back in 2020 to help write the Biden playbook that frankly turned into the Medicare drug price negotiation. Yep. So there are a lot of folks who I look up to and value, many of whom are already riding with us in this race. And I'm grateful for them. And then when it comes to what keeps me going, I got 2 little girls, and they're 7 and 2 years old. And I tell you, I told my dad I was going to run back in 2017 for governor. The first thing he said, my dad's not a histrionic guy, so this was an unlikely reaction. He just looks at me and says, "They're going to kill you." I was like, whoa. And this time around, when I told him I was going to run, his reaction was 100% different. He said, "You have to run." I was like, why is that? He said, "Look, for the better part of 50 years, I've been able to say whatever I want to whomever I want about whoever I want in whatever situation I want, and I've never had to worry about it because I'm an American citizen. And I worry that your daughters are growing up in a world where that's not going to be true anymore." And so I think about that world where these ethnically half Indian, ethnically half Egyptian, 100% American little girls are growing up, and what I want for them. And whether it's taking on the system that says that some people are less American than others because of how they pray or where their parents came from, or the system that says that women can't have full control of their whole bodies or a whole paycheck, I think that we have a responsibility in the year of our Lord 2025 to finally take those things on. And, for me, it's personal. I got these 2 little girls whose America I want to have a hand in helping to build. And I think for all of our kids, and the kids that I see around the state as I travel, they deserve so much better than they're getting. And my hope is to build that. So, I don't get to spend as much time with them as I'd like given the work, but I know who I'm building for.
Yeah, and that given particularly what we just saw happen in Minnesota, and you being a dad and me being an uncle and a mentor, I guess I could call myself that to a lot of young cats and a lot of young ladies. I want to be able to be a part of that conversation to make sure that we are continuing to preserve that for them and not see the destruction in so many levels that's out there. I know you've got a hard stop at the 45 minute of the hour. Dr. Abdul, I'd love to have you back with us again. I know you got a busy schedule, but keep us in mind. We want to be able to amplify your voice because what you're saying is what so many other people throughout the country, not just the state of Michigan, need to hear. They know they need to hear it, and we need to have voices that speak to it. So I thank you for that perspective and that energy and passion that you bring to this conversation. How can folks find you? How can folks get with you and be a part of your process and moving this thing forward?
Well, I really appreciate that. I'm grateful to you for offering the space for us to have an incredible conversation and a beautiful reflection to start this morning. I hope that folks will check us out. You can go to the website, abdulforsenate.com. You can also follow me on socials. I'm on everything from Instagram to TikTok to Facebook to the website previously known as Twitter. I hope folks will check us out, follow us, share our stuff. And I think in this era of social media, the most powerful way to teach somebody or tell somebody about somebody is word of mouth. Because we don't get as much of it anymore. So I hope folks will just pick up the phone, especially folks in Michigan, but frankly, folks all over the country, be like, hey, I heard this conversation. The guy kind of makes some sense. I hope you'll check him out. So I'm really grateful to you for spreading the good word, for holding this space for all of us to check in and center ourselves every morning. And I'm grateful to get to share it with you this morning, and I look forward to coming back.
Absolutely. Dr. Abdul El-Sayed, who is a physician, former public health official, candidate for Michigan's open U.S. Senate seat. Thank you for being with us. I will say give you a little bit of a shout out. A couple of our listeners in Michigan have tuned in and sent some thumbs up to you. So just to let you know that even folks that are up early this morning and that are saying, hey, go Dr. Saeed. So thanks for being with us, Doc. I appreciate you. Appreciate the work you're doing. Stay strong, and we're here for you when you want to come back on, okay?
You too, my friend. Be well.
Be well. Bye now. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-200-1966. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-200-1966. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-200-1966. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-200-1966 or biglou.com.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms at times here for today. Otherwise, cloudy skies with a high in the mid-70s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Tonight, partly cloudy and a low near 57. By Friday, sunshine, high of 70 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high of 74. Sunday, sunshine, high of 77 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 63.
This is a WCPT Better in a Minute. After working several odd jobs in New York City, Henry Johnson found his way into the National Guard during World War I. Johnson was assigned to the 369th Infantry Regiment, but the all-black unit was better known as the Harlem Hellfighters. The Hellfighters' first task was assisting the French Fourth Army. On May 15, 1918, Hellfighter Johnson noticed Germans attempting to break in. Johnson retreated to get backup from the French troops, noticing German soldiers were attempting to kidnap another Hellfighter. Despite standing at only 5'4", Johnson sprung into action. With only 3 bullets and a bolo knife, Johnson was able to kill 4 enemy soldiers and wounded 21 others, causing them to retreat, saving himself and his men. However, Johnson received a total of 21 injuries all over his body, including his left foot being shattered. Johnson was discharged, and his papers did not show his heroism or his injury, leaving him unable to receive any disability compensation, leaving Johnson penniless at the time of his death at age 36. Johnson's heroism went unnoticed for decades until President Barack Obama awarded him the Medal of Honor in 2015.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
This is Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Good having Dr. Saeed with us this morning. Great candidate, and I believe that he believes the things that need to happen in those top areas that he spoke of. So we definitely want to have him back on the show. And there's a couple other folks that we're going to have on. We had Mallory McMorrow on back a few weeks ago. We'll get her back on the show. Michigan's an important state. All of our states are important. Those Senate seats are super important for them to take back the control of Congress. And we have to do that. So a couple things, and I want to make sure. Let me just make a note of this conversation. I was watching MSNBC, which I don't do a lot, but I did yesterday. So I'm going to come back to that in a moment. But I want to say something about a text that I received. I got a text this morning from someone that wants to make the situation of the shooting in Minnesota and this whole conversation around it being I don't care if the person's trans, black, white, Muslim, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, Mexican, Polish. I don't care. This is where the right is wrong. This is where GOP is totally jacked up in the head about stuff. I don't care. I mean, typically it turns out that the shooters, and if we go back and look at the last 15, let's go back to 2000. That's 25 years. What you will find is that there is a demographic that are the shooters. Okay, now I'm not going to point any fingers because y'all can do the research, particularly those who are the trolls that follow this show and others. But it's not about fitting a narrative. It's about fitting what's. We'll put it this way. If we look at the data of the shooters in the last 25 years, school shootings and other mass shootings, they are of a certain demographic. That is not That is not me being hyperbolic. That's not me being anecdotal, or that's not me being biased. That's to go back to what Dr. Saeed just said. That's looking at the data. The data is hard to look at for some people. It really is. That's why the numbers of the crime numbers going down right now. It's hard for the Trump regime to look at because they are facts. They just want to go with all this other hyperbolic BS. But the point I want to make on this shooting is I don't care, even though the data shows a certain thing, I don't care if the person were trans or not, white, black, Hispanic, all of our communities are not. Babies died. Okay? So I have the same anger and frustration about that when it's a mass shooting with guns. He didn't run through the school stabbing people. Not that would have made it any more right or less wrong. But at the end of the day, it's the guns. And it's not about fitting. My narrative, for those who want to play that game, my narrative is let's get guns off the streets of all of our cities. See, the reason that a lot of legislators don't want to lean into this getting guns off the streets or getting illegal guns into the state of Illinois, specifically Chicago, is because they know that if they can keep that conversation up, as my mother would say, keep that mess up, then young black boys are going to be having access to guns and a threat, just like young white boys are and young Hispanic boys are and all the rest. And if economics plays into that, it's going to make it worse. So my narrative is let's get guns off the streets of America. Let's get guns out of the hands of folks that may have a mental issue, irrespective of the culture or community that they come from. That's my narrative to the trolls that are out there that want to try to pin it and say, oh, wow, you're saying that because of this, it's that. No, if the person were trans or not, if it were a woman or a guy, at the end of the day, the guns make this issue a bigger, crazier, harmful issue. So let's get rid of them. I understand those who are Second Amendment advocates and, you know, the right to bear arms. But listen, that milk is sour. That needs to be updated. That needs to be fixed. And listen, Henry. Okay, here's one. If the U.S. Supreme Court could take a case that would remove a woman's right to choice and have protections of her body, and that was written in my lifetime. So just y'all bear with me as we get to the top of this hour. If the country with the Supreme Court, this current Supreme Court, could say, and half of them that are on the conservative side of the court lied or certainly avoided telling the truth during their appointment process, confirmation process, about Roe v. Wade was settled law. They all BS'd us on that one. So a law that was written inside of 60 years ago, 50 years ago, part of our Constitution, got changed. Right? Y'all hear me? So don't tell me that we can't change another one. Don't give me that garbage that we can't fix the Second Amendment to be modern. If we're going to you understand that? We're going to take away rights that were provided for women and families less than 60 years ago, less than 55 years ago. But we can't take away something that's older and more stale milk that's causing more harm and death than a woman's right to choose. Okay? I hear people running around saying all the babies that were killed because of abortion. First of all, it's none of your damn business. You live in Texas and a woman in Ohio has is about to have an ectopic birth. Can't get my words together. She's having some medical issues 1,000 miles away from you, but you want to control her body? That's insanity. But when babies get killed by anybody, whomever has access to guns, and I don't think that they should, or we should change the guidelines there, you don't want to have nothing to say about that. Because the Second Amendment says they can have a gun. Okay, well, we had protection for women so that they wouldn't be in medical and healthcare harm. But you all had to change that. So, families that have been impacted by yet another shooting, we feel for you as best we can. Most of us don't know you, but and most of us don't know the pain that you are suffering right now. But I'm way beyond tired of having this happen yet again. It's a healthcare crisis. It is in many cases, it's a financial crisis, and most importantly, it's a life and death crisis that we just keep repeating. And I ask the narrow-minded arrogance of America, how come other countries just to the north of us, Canada ain't got this problem? The white countries that Trump says he wants America to be like, the white countries, they don't have this problem in Norway or in Sweden, not to my knowledge, and I stay pretty plugged into this stuff. They don't have this problem. Hell, they don't have this problem in Egypt. So go back to Dr. Saeed's ancestry. So America, just stop lying to yourself about the Second Amendment. Just stop lying to yourself. It'll be good for your soul. Just stop lying. We have a gun problem. We have a psychology. We have a psychosis and a problem within that in America. And we've been lazy as hell in terms of being willing to fix it. We just have. So getting the Dr. Saeeds in office and the Mallory McMorrows in office, and I know that's kind of splitting you get my point. Getting that mindset in office is where we need to be. All right, guys, we're going to take a break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
This is your WCPT Progressive Calendar. Tuesday, September 16th at 5:30 p.m., the Chicago Council on Global Affairs will host a panel discussion called Retreat or Resilience, Responding to Global Democratic Decline. Panelists include Norman Eisen, Senior Fellow at the Brookings Institution, and Susan Stokes, Director of the Chicago Center on Democracy. Visit globalaffairs.org to learn more and register to attend. Tuesday, September 30th at 5 p.m., the Institute for Policy Research at Northwestern University welcomes Ali Zaidi for a distinguished public policy lecture. Zaidi headed the White House Climate Policy Office during the Biden administration and served as President Biden's top advisor on domestic climate policy. The event is free and takes place at White Auditorium, 2211 Campus Drive in Evanston.
Protect your liver and give it the support that it deserves with Active Liver from New Nordic. Find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS, Meijer Grocery, or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. A Catholic community is mourning the deaths of 2 students in a church shooting. AP correspondent Mike Hempen has more.
Hundreds gathered to honor the children shot in a Minneapolis Catholic church. Minneapolis Archbishop Bernard Hebda said there was courage, bravery, and love in the midst of the shootings that killed 2 children and wounded 17 people. Speaking at a packed Wednesday night vigil, Hebda said the front of the Annunciation Church where the shootings occurred reads House of God and the Gate of Heaven.
How is it that such a terrible tragedy could take place in a place that's the house of God and the gate of heaven? It's unthinkable.
Minneapolis Police Chief Ryan O'Hara says the gunman, 23-year-old Robin Westman, posted a manifesto on YouTube. O'Hara says the children who died were 8 and 10. I'm Mike Hempen.
In other news, the director for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Susan Monarez, has been fired after less than 1 month in the job. Her departure coincided with the resignations this week of at least 4 top CDC officials. And Iran's rial currency fell to near record lows today. Concerns are growing that European nations could move to start a process to reimpose United Nations sanctions over Iran's nuclear program. An Iranian diplomat warned it would make no sense for Tehran to work with nuclear inspectors if UN sanctions are reimposed. And 7 migrants transferred from the U.S. to Rwanda arrived in mid-August. No information was provided about the identities of those deported. Earlier this month, the East African country said it would accept up to 250 deportees from the U.S. In sports, All-Star Freddie Freeman was out of the Los Angeles Dodgers lineup yesterday because of a nerve issue in his neck. Manager Dave Roberts says he'll be back on Friday. This is AP News. AP correspondent Karen Shamas reports on a call from the Pope for Israel to stop punishing Palestinians in Gaza.
Pope Leo XIV is demanding that Israel stop the collective punishment and forced displacement of Palestinians in Gaza.
Che tanto terrore, distruzione e morte ha causato.
Leo was interrupted twice by applause as he read aloud his latest appeal to end Israel's offensive and blockade of aid in Gaza during his weekly general audience on Wednesday. Palestinians in Gaza are bracing for Israel's promised increased offensive in some of the territory's most populated areas, including Gaza City. I'm Karen Shamas.
And the European Commission says it will summon Russia's envoy to the European Union over the air attack earlier today that damaged the EU's diplomatic compound in Kyiv. Russia bombarded the Ukrainian capital with drones and missiles, killing at least 15 people and wounding 48.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms at times here for today, otherwise cloudy skies with a high in the mid-70s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Tonight, partly cloudy and a low near 57. By Friday, sunshine, high of 70 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high of 74. Sunday, sunshine, high of 77 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 63.
This Labor Day at Lowe's, shop member-only doorbuster deals for a limited time. Save $50 on an Ego string trimmer, now $169. Plus, get 50% off select Holland pavers. Not a rewards member? Sign up for free today. But hurry, Labor Day doorbuster deals won't last long. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 9/1 while supplies last. Program subject to terms and conditions. Details at Lowe's.com/terms. Subject to change.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us. 773-763-9278. Got a few clips we'll hit you with this segment. At 7:30, we've got Erin Reed, journalist, that'll be with us, and talking about not only what's happening currently in journalism, but also what's happening in the LGBTQ and trans community. So I'm looking forward to chatting with her in a little bit. Let's grab a call. Let's see what John has to say this morning. Good morning, John, and welcome to Choose Views.
Morning, Mr. Chew. How you doing?
Good. What's going on?
I have a little gripe with our governor.
Okay.
You know, he had the pulpit the other day talking about Mr. Trump, about bringing the National Guard into the city or state of Illinois.
Right.
He opened up his mouth and said, hey, how about January 6th? You said Nancy Pelosi had the right to bring in the National Guard, but she didn't do anything. Well, now you're saying put the National Guard into D.C., but you have right now, but you didn't have 4 or 5 years ago? Why didn't he say something like that? Throw it right back into his face.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So rather, he could have said that. You're saying that the governor could have said a little bit different angle about he didn't have the power to do it. It was Nancy Pelosi's responsibility, but now suddenly he has the power to do it. Yeah, I get it. That's an interesting way of looking at it. I don't disagree with you there. I think what happens sometimes, John, and you probably know this as well as anybody, a couple things happen. One, some of it's scripted, and it's scripted for time purposes. I can tell you that from doing our show here. And that's not to make an excuse. It's just to understand that some of it I know is scripted, and they want to get through the message that they've crafted. And some of it also is they're just not going to always hit the perfect notes. Again, I'm not trying to make excuses. When I see that the governor does something that I'm not cool with, I've said it. Same with the mayor, same with our other elected officials here in Illinois. But I think sometimes that's what happens. However, I agree with you. That is kind of a cool slant. And maybe that needs to be added to their dialogue, his dialogue and Mayor Johnson's and other blue officials throughout the country. Is it you know what I mean? So I get you. That's a really good another. Let's look at it like this, John. That's another arrow to have in their quiver. But go ahead, man.
Yeah. Can I one more point?
Yep.
Now, I'm not Catholic. I'm Orthodox. Now, why doesn't Pope Leo put his 2 cents in and say, Mr. Trump or President Trump? I don't want to give his props, but why did Pope Leo say, hey? I thought you're a man of God. You whisper, you worship God. You came into my house. Why don't you guys do something about gun control?
Yeah.
Hey, he's got the big loudmouth piece of mouth. Leo, say something like that.
Yeah.
Get it out there. Say, hey, you know what? You're supposed to be a man of God. You're supposed to worship, God and everything like that. Do something. You came into my house. Now, why don't you do something about gun control?
Well, see, here's the thing, too, and that's actually not something that just needs to be said to Donald Trump. And let me help you out with this, with John, so that because I know you sound like a person that talks to a few people and you've got some great perspectives. Just pull the Mr. off of the name and just call him Trump, because then you won't be misperceived by people who might think you're leading with something that you're not actually leading with. I'm just throwing
I don't call him, Donald Trump. I call him Ronald Trump.
That's funny. Listen, let me come back to your point about the Pope and about the Catholic, this whole conversation. Here's what needs to be said, not just to Donald Trump, but to the entire GOP machine on all levels. They are all complicit, in my opinion, based on their actions, with these continued shootings, whether they be in a Catholic church or whether it be in a what?
I don't mean to cut you off, but he's the biggest mouthpiece the GOP does. If you talk to him personally, you're just like, hey, you do something about it because you're the mouthpiece of the GOP, Mr. Trump.
You mean Trump?
Yeah, Mr. Trump.
Well, I get that, but let's be honest. From a legislative standpoint, that's where the sausage gets made, and that's where the fix is. Donald Trump is not. Here's the thing. I think I know what you're saying, and I'm gonna ride with you in the car on this for a moment. This is not the first time, whether it be in a Catholic church, whether it be in a synagogue, whether it be in a school, wherever. that Donald Trump has been late to the party when it comes to this conversation about school shootings or mass shootings. This is not the first time. He is beholden to the NRA and other business interests that want to see guns still in the streets of America. And so that's why I say the approach. Although I hear what you're saying, John. I'm not saying you're wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying that sort of pulpit voice from the Catholic Church or from all churches needs to be directed to the GOP, because they are the ones that have the power from a legislative standpoint to fix this. Trump should be showing up as the sort of emotional leader right now, like Biden did and like Barack did and others, but he's not. So that's why I'm saying that maybe that energy needs to be directed toward the GOP on a federal level and candidly on the state level.
And how about the Supreme Court, too? They're supposed to be like, oh, hi, mighty Miss Coney Barrett.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that, again, let's use our resources. I like if you heard what Dr. Saeed said earlier about one of his fixes would be to move in ways of bettering the Supreme Court, particularly when it comes to money in politics. Money in politics, particularly with the Supreme Court, is dictating a lot of our policy, whether people want to admit that or not. So
I agree.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for the call and the contribution. And just call him Trump.
No, Chump. Mr. Chump.
Chump. Okay, I got you. All right, John. All right, we had to get our phonetics together there. If you're driving this morning, it's wet out, so please be careful. Okay.
You too. Have a good day. Have a good holiday weekend. Be safe. Be careful out there.
Will too. You do. Do the same. All right. Bye-bye. Yeah, John makes a good point. I mean, but it's not. Here's the thing, and like I said, I'm repeating myself. Trump's not the person for us to look to for any sort of spiritual or emotional or loving guidance during a tragedy. He doesn't. It's not even fumbles the ball. He can't even touch the ball. He's never been there. He won't be there. He's not built that way. And for those, to John's point, that want to run around saying, he's a man of God and it's all BS. It's all for show, guys. Y'all got y'all being defined, so no one gets the wrong way. Those that are MAGA, GOP, and all the rest that are on that side, that 78 million, and some that didn't vote, you got hoodwinked, and you should have known better. You should have known better. There were signs that said, don't go down this road, the bridge is out. And you're at the precipice now, and that bridge is out, and you're wondering, and on top of that, not only did you go down the wrong path when there were signs that told you not to go down that path, and now that bridge is out, and the road that you took to get down there is being gobbled up by the people that told you to go down that road. So MAGA, GOP, that's what's happened. And I want to address this. Someone sent me a text this morning that said that we need to define, I think it may have been sent yesterday and I just didn't catch it before the end of the show, that we need to kind of separate the MAGA everyday person and voter from the MAGA leadership. And I get that, because the MAGA everyday voter might be where there are folks who may, come our way. I'm not, and the person that sent the text did say she's not looking at coddling them, and I'm not either. But I also have to lean into this. Those are the same people that said that they were smarter than everybody else, that they knew better and that the Dems were wrong and let's own the libs. So they need to be the ones. We don't need to build a new message for them to suddenly go, aha, that's what I've been waiting to hear from the Democrats, so I can now switch my voting habits and patterns to the Democratic leadership. They've had it all laid out for them on a silver platter. And they chose fresh food on a silver platter. They chose to go for the old stale food, the sour milk. And they followed the leaders of the MAGA movement to do that. So they need to come to us. Leaving MAGA is a good example. Those people had to make a decision to change their behavior, their direction. We can't make them change. They've got to be willing to change. And when I hear we've got to give them something to vote for, no, we don't. We gave them something to vote for. And that was to vote for democracy and to vote for sanity and to vote for the things that were going to protect us from this idiot, this fool. I know people say don't say idiot, don't say stupid, but this creature in the White House, this MAGA-driven racist in the White House, this bully. They were given more than enough. The platter was full, and they chose to go for the scraps, the sour scraps. They made that decision, y'all. You realize that nobody forced their hand to vote for Donald Trump and to vote for this Republican regime on a local, state, federal level. They weren't. Nobody forced their hand. Nobody went into the voting booth with them and held a gun to their. I shouldn't say that. Held a weapon to their head to make them do it. They made a decision. So they have to own that decision, and we don't have to coddle them, whether it be the everyday voters or followers in MAGA and GOP or the leadership. I'm sorry, and I'm not really sorry. I understand the perspective, and I'm not criticizing the perspective. I'm just saying, no. They've got to come to us. We have to keep marching down the path to better ideas. And is there going to be a person, an individual that will evolve and be the leader? I've said before, that's great. But right now, I would rather us. See, here's the thing. We can't get caught up in the language that everybody else on the right wants us to have and that the media wants us to have in terms of there's got to be the supreme one person. No. We have a bench of a lot of capable people. And more importantly, we have to have everybody participating in the process. So waiting for that individual to ride in on his or her white horse is a fool's game this time around. We all have to be participants in this process. We all have to be. We're going to take a quick break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and ARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
When it comes to banking, you need a bank you can trust. A bank with a rock-solid reputation and the highest integrity. A bank that gives you the attention and respect you deserve.
ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922, and we've made our name on deep expertise, best-in-class service, and a strong commitment to our customers. We know the Chicago business market inside and out and can help you craft the perfect banking solution, no matter what type of business you're in.
And if you're looking for a banking partner for your labor union, we can bring the type of expertise that only comes from a bank that was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders to this day.
Whether you need a deposit account, loan, trust services, or investment management, ABOC has you covered. Let's work together to manage your finances today while planning for a better tomorrow. ABOC, a bank built on a strong foundation.
Visit aboc.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Computers are a wonderful tool, but every day children are sexually solicited online. Protect your kids online. Visit cybertipline.com. Help delete online predators. This message brought to you by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I volunteer with United Way to help the homeless in my community learn computer skills and build a basic resume. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey, I got to share this with you guys. One person, this is so funny how, people see things and hear things. One person said that when Pritzker says something inarticulate, and he didn't say anything inarticulate, by the way. He just said something a different way that a caller said maybe he could have said it this way. That wasn't inarticulate, by the way. That was just a different way of saying it. And I agree, he could add that to the arsenal. But this one, it cracks me up. It just does. There's one person and again, I say sometimes I think there are more bots out there than we realize. But going on about, I don't call out Chuck Schumer. I mean, I call out Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, but I never okay, anyhow. Some people need to, as my mother would say, get some business. J.B. Pritzker didn't say anything inarticulate. He just said it differently than what a caller thought he could say. And that's why we said, okay, he could add it to the arsenal. Now, the other side of that is, in terms of people and things that are being said, you guys remember when the thing I talked about with Kurt Mullett yesterday? I said that Trump said that J.B. Pritzker needs to spend more time in the gym. Well, this person sent a text. Actually, it's Mike from Evanston said, ever since the snide comment of that Governor Pritzker needs to go to the gym, I refer to him, meaning Trump, as Donald Plump. Right on, Mike. That's pretty good. I hadn't thought. That's a funny one. Donald Plump. Yes, that would be true. And we know we're not body shaming anybody whatsoever. So no one get their, what's in a bundle. Those undies, keep them unbundled. But yeah, I mean, Donald is the last person to be telling somebody that they need to go to the gym. That being said, and also not particularly presidential. I mean, that's the other part. And it's so childish. And if you listen, if you continue to follow what as Mike says, Donald Plump, it shows that you're childish. Now, let's be honest here. We know that Donald is a useful idiot for the folks that are the part of Project 2025. We get that, and the Heritage Foundation, and all these other right-wing groups that want to take away rights and privileges and all the wonderful parts of America from so many people. That's what they want to do. Why? Because they want to reduce the population. We've heard it said before. The crazy stuff that comes out of Stephen Miller's mouth. He wants to reduce the population, but at the same time, they want to force women to have children. It's like the craziest thing. It's like they want to build a white society of white women having babies and get rid of everybody else. That's where so much of this is coming from. I'm not making it up. That's not my opinion. That's the stuff that you'll find when you go through Project 2025 when it comes to women's reproductive rights. We want to force women to have babies so that we can build a quote-unquote white society in America. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? But that's who 78 million people voted for, what they voted for. So I was talking before about the Senate, and I want to lean back to something that came up in my conversation with watching it, or not my conversation, but in watching MSNBC. There is opportunity there, but it means we have to all lean in. What am I talking about? The House, clearly, this whole gerrymandering, redistricting is about the fact that the regime knows that they're in trouble. They know they're in trouble. And that's why they're doing this. It's for no other reason. It's to take away the rights of people in different states to be able to vote for who they want to vote for. And also, the other part of this is to find a way for Trump to remain in power. We talked about that. We know that that's out there. But there are some optimistic pieces in regards to taking back the House, because it's right there in front of us. The Dems have definitely got to do the work. We have to do the work. And the Senate is more gettable than one may think. And as we go through the next few weeks, we'll start to talk about some of those races and what they actually look like and what we might be able to do as progressive liberal Democrats to help. Part of the reason having Dr. Saeed on was to talk about, to show that that's his mindset about the state of Michigan and the rest of the country is better than any Republican candidate could ever dream of. One side, meaning the GOP candidates, they want to take stuff away from people. The other side, the Mallory McMorrows, the Dr. Saeeds, want to provide things for American people, for citizens of the state of Michigan and the rest of the country. It's a stark difference. And that, to me, I've been saying this for the longest time, needs to be a critical part of the Democratic message in these upcoming elections. It has to be. And I think that services for America, medical, educational, financial, lifestyle, that's the message has got to be a mirror reflecting against what the GOP is taking away from the country. Okay, MSNBC. Yesterday, I did something I don't do a lot. And that's to watch MSNBC during the middle of the day. But there were a couple people that were going to be on. I wanted to see what they had to say. All right. And we may have this clip tomorrow to talk about this. We're not, I say many times, guys, we have to be more willing to call out in the moment. And you guys will send things to me and say, hey, Chew, that's not really what I think happened or how I see it. And I try to embrace that as best I can. Real time. Yesterday, Nicole Wallace had Sam Stein on her show and a few other guests, Dr. Eddie Glaude, John Heilemann. Heilemann made some great points about where we are right now with regards to autocracy, and so did Dr. Glaude. But one of the things that happened during the show that I think is really important to understand, Sam Stein was going on about how he felt that Trump was on some solid footing when it comes to troops in cities, and how he went down the path a little bit of how, Republicans are in support of that, and how the members of certain cities are behind this chaos. And Nicole Wallace did something brilliant. And Nicole, I know you're listening, so I apologize for leaving an L out of your name when I was sending out my tweet on this yesterday. She called him out real time. And they're colleagues. Okay? But what I saw is that Nicole Wallace wasn't going to allow Sam's, frankly, inaccurate way of looking at this. And in some ways, although she didn't say it, his white male privilege as a progressive to say something that wasn't actually based in the current reality that we live in. She called it out. I think she said bullpucky. I literally, in that moment, I reached out to a couple folks and I said, now that's how you handle even those that are on our side when any of us makes that mistake. So John, who called in earlier, that said that Governor Pritzker could have said something a certain way. It wasn't that the governor was saying something that was BS. It's just an added tool for the arsenal. But what Nicole did yesterday, I think, was her really accepting the role that she has to call out those things when they happen real time. So there's a lesson there for all of us, and that we should be willing to call it out real time. When somebody around us, even that someone that's on our side, quote, says something that is laden with BS, we should call it out. It might be a coworker, it might be a colleague, it might be a friend, it might be a family member, it might be somebody in a restaurant that says some garbage and you hear it. I think a part of our power, and I think a part of our connection and drawing consensus has to be us being willing to say that is absolutely stupid, insane, BS, garbage, malarkey, whatever the word is, real time when it happens. Because part of the brainwashing, part of the MAGA mindset is because they don't get called on it. They get a steady stream of it when they're watching the news, if they're watching Fox, making an assumption here. They get a steady stream of it. So we have the ability, now it's a question of if we choose to use it or not, to call out the garbage real time, like Nicole did to one of her colleagues. She did it with a smile on her face, in part, but she wasn't having it. I want more of us to do that. I know that some people don't like to cause conflict or rattle the cages and all the other words that they get into this part of the conversation. But if you care about this thing that we're saying we are trying to protect in terms of democracy and bringing back the things that we need to have when we get to the other side of this, it starts with you being willing to call out your best friend when he or she says something that doesn't line up with reality. And I put myself in that role, just to be called out and to call out. That's why I'm clean up on aisle 7. And typically when I say something, it might be a mistake of how I perceive something, but it's not to be out there preaching garbage and lies. And not that Sam was doing that, but Nicole wasn't going to have it on this issue that there's some footing that's solid in cities for troops to be in. No, she wasn't having it. So watch the clip. I'll try to have the clip for you tomorrow. We may not be able to get it to you today, but we won't force it in because we have a guest. But we'll have it for you tomorrow so that you guys can see what was said and how she responded to it. And the other guest on the show at the time also realized, she kind of had to do what she did. So there you go. Be willing to fight right now. As I said, what have I been saying now at the beginning of the show? Chins up and shoulders back. It's time to fight. Okay? That's where I want to be for you guys. What I want to be for you guys. Let's take a break. You are listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM in Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Are you 40 years old in great health and want life insurance coverage with no exam and instant coverage options? Big Lou can do that. Are you 50 to 60 with health issues and still want life insurance coverage with no exam needed? Big Lou can do that. Are you on meds for anxiety, sleep apnea, diabetes, or other health glitches and just want the best rate possible without a lot of hassles? Big Lou can do that. To find the most affordable term life coverage options for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-200-1966. Big Lou does term life insurance better than anyone else on the radio, and he may be able to get you $1 million to $4 million of term life coverage with no exam. For the best term life insurance deals in America, call Big Lou at 800-200-1966. 800-200-1966. Remember, Big Lou is like you. Once a week, he can do that too. Call 800-200-1966 or visit biglou.com.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few scattered showers and thunderstorms at times here for today, otherwise cloudy skies with a high in the mid-70s. Winds out of the southwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour, gusting as high as 15. Tonight, partly cloudy and a low near 57. By Friday, sunshine, high of 70 degrees. Saturday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high of 74. Sunday, sunshine, high of 77 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 63.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I kind of warmed up some people that went back in the Wayback Machine saying I need my progressive card pulled because I was, okay, whatever. Alrighty. Let's see. MAGA did not get hoodwinked. They are delusional. Such characteristics. Yeah, I agree with that. They weren't hoodwinked. They were to some extent hoodwinked, but they also they were predisposed in their own mind that this is where they wanted to be. And then the MAGA movement took off, going back to the Tea Party movement, and they found a spot. So I agree with you, 708, for what you're saying there. They weren't just hoodwinked. They were complicit. They've been complicit. And that's part of why I've said I don't, whatever the issue may be, I don't want to give them any comfort or space because I don't trust them until they make the decision, like the people leaving MAGA are doing, to change. I think we have to be a little bit more guarded in that space. So anyhow, that's just to kind of try to respond to one of the texts that we received. So I say this all the time. We have some of the most compelling folks as our guests, and we are so proud and always inspired when we have folks joining Choose Views, joining our show to talk about issues that are important to us throughout the United States of America. And one of those voices that we have with us this morning is someone that has been extraordinarily powerful and a leading voice in the LGBTQ plus legislation around the country, certainly around the world, excuse me, and most definitely in the transgender community as well. Good morning and welcome to the show, journalist Erin Reed. Good morning, Erin. Welcome to Choose Views. Uh-oh. Did we lose? No.
Nope, I'm still here. Good
Okay.
morning. Thank you for having me on.
We had you on mute. Sorry about that. How are you doing this morning? And welcome to the show.
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Doing good. Been fighting off the. It's so funny, Erin, and I know you deal with this in your own way. Fighting off those who are more interested in fighting against us than with us, that are on the same side with us. In other words, the people that we think are our allies, or we would like to believe are our allies, but they'd rather fight against us on an issue that we should be in common with than fight with us to go after those who want to strike us down. And
there are certainly enough examples of that.
Isn't it, though? It's crazy. It's like, wait a minute. Hold on a second. Let's stop fighting against each other. And certainly if we're going to do that, don't do it in public. Let's my mother used to say to me, don't take our business out in the street. Fix the stuff at home. Then we go out as a unified front to fight the fight against those who want to cause us harm.
That would be a wonderful world.
Yes, it would be. So, Erin, what I found so compelling about you is the work that you're doing and how you've been unapologetic about your life. And I don't want to tell your story because that's not fair or respectful to you, but take a moment and share with our audience all across the country your story and why your story matters right now in our country.
Yeah, absolutely. I have known that I was transgender from an early age, and back in the 1990s and early 2000s, it was fairly difficult to transition at the age of 13 in southern Louisiana, and so I had to very much keep that to myself. I saw LGBTQ people, mainly gay people and lesbian people, gain the ability to come out over time and gain sort of that freedom that we saw in the advancements in the civil rights of LGBTQ people at that time. But so many of us had to still stay quiet. And in the mid 2010s or so, things started to change for us for the better. I came out in 2019 and eventually found myself working in my own sort of journalistic capacity, where I started reporting on bills, started writing stories about all of the different good things and bad things that we've had to face as a community since then. Of course, in the last couple of years, things have gotten very difficult for my community, and I have found myself in a position to where I can, at the very least, tell our story.
Uh-oh. Still there? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, good,
yes.
good. Sorry about that. So, Erin, listen, one of the things that I've been, and thank you for sharing that. You've been prolific in your writing and your public speaking, and really being someone that's more than the phrase that or the label that people get now as an influencer. Well, in my mind, all of us are influencers. It's just a question of what lane we go down to share our message. But you've been incredibly prolific, and you've done some great work in terms of sharing your story, but also trying to create space and community for those who may not have had some of the courage that you've had, and the way in which you've persevered. And so I don't know. I always hate to hear the phrase coming out, and I'm not pointing fingers at you. I'm just saying, like, someone that's straight doesn't have to come out. And to me, I've always felt like, that's like, why do we have to make it a thing where a person has to announce that they're not straight or that they are trans? And it's just kind of boggled my mind. As a straight dude, I'm like, that's just crazy. So that's my perspective. In all fairness, again, I don't want to sound like I'm the person that understands your reality, but I'd like you to share with our audience that conversation about coming out and why that has become a thing, and kind of where it came from, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, of course. It would be a wonderful world if we could simply be who we are without any sort of questioning or without any sort of justification for who we are. And I think that for lesbian and gay people, they had to justify who they were for a long time before it became at least a little bit more accepted in recent years. But for trans people, it still feels like we have had to justify our gender, justify who we are, justify our names, justify our pronouns, justify our medical care to so many people. And I want to say that I'm not going to blame a lot of people. I think that people have sometimes a lack of understanding of what it means to be queer, what it means to be gay, what it means to be trans. But that being said, we're just people. We're just people like you. We're just people like your family. We're just people like your friends. I've got a kid. I've got friends. I've got a career, and I have hobbies and interests and things that I love to do. So whenever I did come out, I had the blessing of having a really good community to come out to. I was able to come out to my church, and my church was very accepting of me. I had several offers to sit next to them the very next day in church whenever I came out, and that was a really beautiful moment for me. And then, over time, I've helped other people make that same step, make those same processes. And let me tell you, it's not easy for so many trans people that are out there because, family rejection abounds. You have people who seek to hate you for who you are. And unfortunately for us as transgender people, our very first year of coming out is often very visible. As we make changes to our lives, as we make changes to our names, as we make changes to our identification documents and our appearance and our personality, we can be very visible, and therefore we can be big targets for people. I had the blessing of having an easy coming out, but many people don't.
When you say an easy coming out, I don't want people to get a misperception of that. Can you explain in your words what that means and what that was like and has been like?
Well, yeah. So I live in the Washington, D.C. area. I live in an area that is more progressive whenever it comes towards transgender people. I live in an area where I had many friends who knew about transgender people. I live in an area where I had a church that was accepting of transgender people. All of these things make those first steps so much easier to do. Not to mention, we have clinics here where you can get gender affirming care very easily. That's not the case for so many people. Many people that live, I grew up in Louisiana, I mentioned earlier. Many people that live back in my hometown who might be queer or trans might not have people who have ever met another transgender person knowingly. They might not have a clinic where they could get their care. The churches in their local area might preach against them. So these are all things that make it much harder. Not to mention, in recent years, the laws that are targeting transgender people in these states where you can't learn about yourself in school. You can't use your pronouns or your name. These are all things that make it much more difficult to come out. And whenever I say that I had an easy coming out experience, I want to also highlight that my family didn't accept me whenever I came out. And yet still, my experience was easier than so many other people out there. Yeah. All I'm trying to do is, make it easier for other people.
Well, and you have. That's why I said at the opening how strong you've been and how much of a voice and leader in this conversation. I'm going to come back to something you said about geography, but I also want to have a little bit of fun with something that you're talking about, the things that, you have hobbies and we're so much in common and all the things that just make your life as normal as anybody else's that's not trans or someone that's not gay or lesbian or however they are defined. I remember a story years ago that one of my sisters and I were joking around one day, and we were talking about was a family member had come out, and my sister was saying to me, just like the rest of us, they're going to catch hell and have arguments and fights and all the other things that we all have to go through. So let's get behind and support this person to the best of our ability. And it's a story and I'm paraphrasing, but it's a story that stayed with me for these years because it reminded me that is the common thread. We all wake up in the morning, and as we get older, our bodies are stiff and sore. We got to get our feet on the ground. You know what I'm talking about, and get going. And that's no different for someone that's gay, lesbian, straight, not LGBTQ. It's all the same stuff. The difference is how people perceive that difference. And I'm speaking from me as a guy that looks at it and goes, this is not meant to sound Pollyannish or take away any of the importance. But why people can't get there, I don't know. But I'm proud of folks like you, Erin, who've been a leader in this conversation.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I think I fully agree with everything that you just said. And I think that the more we can highlight the things that we share in common, hopefully the better things will be for us in the future.
Yeah, and one of the things that, to go back to what I was saying earlier about geography, you in some of your writings, and I think it's in your Substack, Erin in the Morning, which, by the way, y'all need to follow Erin in the Morning on Substack, which I'll let you get to a little bit later. But you posted a map, and I think I've got this right, so correct me if I'm wrong. And I was actually very proud to see something and then very upset to see another thing. And right along with, almost to the letter, with our voting patterns in the country in the last really 3 elections, certainly the last 2, the positive trans versus the anti-trans states in America have fallen almost right in line with the voting patterns of the United States of America in terms of blue versus red or purple. And I'm proud to be, in a state or from a state that is strongly blue, and we have a great governor that's leading the charge in J.B. Pritzker, and a mayor here in Chicago that's equally as strong in this space, and being trans and LGBTQ positive is probably the word, and supportive and protective. Talk a little bit about your experience and your travels in being in different areas of the country when we look at this map that you did post recently.
Absolutely. So just so that your listeners understand the context here, I have been mapping LGBTQ laws around the United States ever since I started my journalism, so a few years ago. And while the first anti-trans law that we saw pop up happened in Arkansas, and it was a gender-affirming care ban for transgender youth, those then started to spread around the country. And people started sending me messages because I'm a very visible transgender journalist and reporter and personality. And so I started getting messages from people saying, hey, should I move? Where should I go to? Which place is safe for me? And rather than answer each person's message, because I started getting, dozens of those, I decided to map out, a sort of safety map for legislation. I've tracked all the laws. I watched all the hearings. And then this map has just sort of taken on a life of its own. I publish one every few months, and it sort of highlights the areas in which, you can go to the bathroom freely, or where you're going to have to be more cautious when driving through the state. And so, yeah, you have this big map that roughly does map onto political maps, although not entirely. There are a couple surprises in there, such as, Kentucky is a weird one that kind of falls in the middle sometimes. Alaska is a weird one that falls in the middle sometimes. But by and large, it definitely maps onto the American political geography. And as somebody that travels a lot, I do a lot of public speaking. I do a lot of driving. We just drove across the country. We had a cross-country road trip from Montana, which is where my wife, Representative Zoe Zephyr,
Go Zoe!
Yeah, she's amazing. She represents Missoula, Montana. And we drove from there all the way to the D.C. area, and we drove through many states and many areas that are very difficult for travel. And I think that I made this map to help people in making those decisions, where they're going to travel, where they're going to live, where they're going to go to school at. And I've gotten a lot of thanks for that.
The map is phenomenal. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM, and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We're talking to journalist Erin Reed, a strong leading voice. Remember, I hate to always do it this way, but this is kind of where we are, of America that just happens to be part of the trans community. I do that sometimes, Erin, when I say, listen, I'm an American first, I'm a black dude second, because I want people to understand that's kind of how I perceive myself. I know I'm a black dude in America, and those words sometimes can be interchangeable in terms of which one comes first. But as I see it, and I see this with you, you're an American citizen first that happens to be a member of the trans community. And,
absolutely.
I know that I'm optimistic about how people are perceiving us in a certain way and perceiving differences that are actually connections. Before you were on earlier in the show, I had Dr. Abdul Said from Michigan, who's running for the U.S. Senate seat there. And that's one of the things that he pointed out. This is an Egyptian man, brown skin, that, has a funny name, as we both laughed about. But at the end of the day, it's a dude that's trying to make things better for people in the country, as you are in your work, is trying to make things better. Because as I see it, Erin, and please comment on this, as things are made better for members of the LGBTQ community, and specifically for you in the trans community, that makes things better for the rest of society in general. What are your thoughts there?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that my wife often says is that there are aspects of being trans that map on well to the rest of the American experience. Things like, we know what it's like to, for instance, need the healthcare system, and all of the issues in the healthcare system in America also affect transgender people. And likewise, the many laws and rationales for targeting transgender people also apply to many other people. So, for instance, if it's easy for the government to just say that your healthcare is not going to be covered or your healthcare is going to be banned, they can do that with anybody else's healthcare too. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that with, obviously, reproductive health care, like abortion coverage or abortion legality. We're seeing it with birth control. That's another one that's popping out. We're seeing it with vaccines. Many of the same people that are pushing anti-LGBTQ and anti-transgender pseudoscience are also pushing anti-vaccination pseudoscience. You look at RFK Jr., for instance. We saw a report very recently where they issued this 400-page pseudoscientific document against transgender healthcare, and you read it, and it reads like one of the anti-vaxxer, sort of master documents. So you're seeing the same kind of action taken. We even see it with now antidepressants. That's going to be the next one that they're targeting. We've seen many people on the far right start to talk about antidepressants and how those medications should be banned or various restrictions on those. And so our experiences are so similar to other experiences whenever it comes to the healthcare system. And I think that that's something that, you open the show by talking about the things that we share in common. And this is one of them. Like, this is a big one.
Yeah, it is. So, it's interesting, Erin, when I was talking with Dr. C, we talked about the importance of those things that we have more in common than we have apart. And I've always been a believer in that. I've always been one to say, let's give everybody a chance, a shot that opposes us, to try to help them not come our way, but at least meet me halfway. And we listen. There's this phrase that many people have been using that you don't have to be a believer in any of the things that someone else is believing in. For example, someone doesn't have to be a supporter of the LGBTQ community or any of the other things that you just listed in terms of care, but just don't take away from them because it's not hurting you. And that's the thing that I look at and go, that medication that someone needs to take for depression or for whatever else, that's not hurting you. That's not taking anything from you. And I said to Dr. Said, we should spend more time in terms of building our national defense by taking care of each other's health and welfare, taking care of each other's education, taking care of each other's ability to be economically prosperous. That's the fight that we should be in, not trying to take away stuff from people and throwing it toward things that are not going to benefit the larger masses of people in the United States of America, irrespective of the camp that they're in. What are your thoughts there?
Well, absolutely. And I think that also we need to trust people to be able to make these decisions for themselves. And I feel like this is a phrase that we have said time and time again, not just for transgender healthcare, or for being gay, or for, we talk about this with reproductive healthcare. We talk about this with the medications that we take. We talk about this with the religious beliefs that we have. This country, ostensibly, idealistically, was founded on ideals of freedom and personal responsibility and choice. And yet it feels like the party that has, put that image forward in the past. You think about like how the Republican Party says this is a free country, such and such and such, but those ideals have fallen away from the Republican Party. And it feels more like the Democratic Party has taken up that flag, especially in the last decade or two, whenever it comes to being able to make these personal choices for yourselves. And, you might not agree with the choice that somebody else makes. You might not know what it feels like to be somebody else. You might not know what it feels like to be transgender, like me, for instance. But I think that most people can understand that these are our choices. These are the choices that we have to make for ourselves, for our families. I've spoken a lot to people who don't understand, for instance, gender-affirming care for transgender youth. And what I often tell them is, you're not that teen's parent. You don't love them like they do. You don't know them like they do. These decisions, the person who's going to know best about the care of a young person, about the care of a trans teen, is going to be that teenager themselves, the parent, and their doctor. Yep. Not some politician who has never met that kid, who doesn't know that kid struggles, coming in and saying that you can't take the medication that your doctor's prescribed.
And Erin, on top of that, not only not knowing, but then shielding themselves from the ability to know and to learn by putting themselves, exposing themselves to information that would allow them to be better suited to talk about it. But it's still none of their damn business. Sorry, Erin. Because every now and again I get a little salty, and I'm so I'm with you on that, because it's like, wait a minute, what about freedom of choice, y'all? I thought we were built on that being one of our key principles. So I
absolutely,
I'm with you on that, and I'm a person that's proud of folks like you who do. When I say folks like you, I don't mean that in any derogatory sense, but folks who said, this is where I am. This is what I believe. This is who I am, just like anybody else. And that's why I kind of started off by asking you the question about, straight people don't have to come out and say, I'm straight, So, yeah. And I don't mean that in any derogatory sense whatsoever. That's not what's in my heart. That's not what's in my belief system. I'm just like, leave folks alone. Let them make their choices and do the thing that's right for them. And when it comes to gender affirming care, you nailed it. I mean, you hit that one right out of the park. That's between that child, their parent, and their doctor, and any of the other experts that they can pull into the conversation to make it right. No different than if someone's having hip replacement surgery or knee replacement surgery or heart transplant. It's between that patient, their family, and their doctor. It's the same doggone thing. And so,
absolutely.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely. And I feel firmly about that.
Erin, it's been great having you on, and we're going to do this again. But before we let you go, folks need to know how they can find you, how they can follow you, and the prolific writing that you do on this subject and so many others. So let folks know how they can find you.
Absolutely. I am erininthemorning.com. You can also follow me on Blue Sky at erininthemorning.com, on Instagram and TikTok, where I constantly make videos on the news, if video is more your thing, and it's at Erin in the Morning, surprisingly. You can follow me on all those places. I also write sometimes. I get cross-published at The Advocate, so if you read The Advocate, that's another place where I often write.
Stop bragging. Erin Reed, thanks for being with us this morning. We greatly appreciate you being on the show, but we more appreciate your strength and your courage and your leadership in this space. So
thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for being with us. We'll talk with you soon, okay?
Thanks a lot.
All right. Bye-bye. Wow. What a fun personality. Yeah, I had to tease her about bragging and all the stuff that she's doing. Thanks to Erin Reed for being with us. Make sure you follow her and the work that she's doing. Also follow Dr. Abdul Saeed and his campaign for the Senate seat in Michigan, the open Senate seat in Michigan. I say this not to play favorites or to pick favorites. I'm sort of supporting them all. I'm excited about any person that's running in Michigan, here in Illinois, any other state that's running in Maine and other places. Was it Maine? But I'm supporting those folks. And there might be 2 or 3 people running. I'm supporting them all because we have a good bench. And any of them is better than having a Republican in those seats. Full stop. No apologies. So get out there, guys, and support those folks who are running. Pick your candidate. We win. We win. And that's what we have to do. As I said at the beginning of this show, chins up and shoulders back. It's time to fight, y'all. Take a deep breath. Make your life count. Because guess what? We'll see you tomorrow.
Fellow timeshare owners, if you're a timeshare owner and you want out at all costs, you're done, frustrated, tired of wasting money, you don't use the darn thing. Get out now. Hire the best Bulldog timeshare cancellation team in the business. Their in-house legal team, headed by a timeshare cancellation lawyer, can help you fight the biggest and baddest companies out there that sell timeshare. At some point, you were using your timeshare, but now you're not, and you're tired of wasting money. Before you go to the poorhouse, call right now and learn how you can stop the maintenance fees and put more money back in your pocket. Their services cost you a lot less than you think, and you'll save a lot of money over time. Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline now. It's a free consultation.
800-296-0150. 800-296-0150. 800-296-0150. That's 800-296-0150.
Paid for by term provider. Premiums will vary. Plans depend on age, location, and other factors. Visit bigloot.com.
Do you have 3 ex-wives and your current trophy wife wants a life insurance policy 3 times the size of the policies you had to purchase for your previous mistakes? If so, you need to call Big Lou.